and I am your sensual self-love and feminine confidence coach. And I just wanted to hop on here real quick to talk about coaching, what it is, what it isn't, and how I can help you. Hi Royston, how you keeping? It's been a while. So coaching helps you with achieving your goals. Hi, it helps with you with moving forward in your life and going forward from where you are and where you want to be. So coaches give you the tools and the processes in which you can progress with your life, basically. And when is it that you need coaching? Is when you feel like, hi, it's been a long while indeed. How you been? I got distracted. When you want to move forward with your life, and when is it that you know that you need a coach? Is when you feel like your life is stagnant, when you feel like you are not moving forward, when you feel like you're lacking in something, that's when you know that you need guidance and you need support in order to go forward with your life. So there are various different types of coaching. There is business coaching, there is sports coaching, there is relationship coaching, there's money coaching, there's so many avenues and so many different ways to coach. And there's like empaths who coach as well, who include their stuff, who include their intuition in their coaching. Well, I am one. And what is it that you need to be coached on? Because what I specialize in is relationships, transforming your relationship into a better one, into a relationships are there to transform your life, right? They're there to transform or make you grow, help you grow. So what I do specifically, I guide and coach you around what it is that I feel like you would need in order to help you grow within that situation or within that scenario. And relationships are always going to trigger you. So they're always going to change because you change, you evolve as a person, and how can I say this? You evolve as a person. So if you're growing, how can you expect your partner to be the same person that they were yesterday, the day before, a month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you know? So you need to make sure that you do your part in order to grow with that. And based on what it is that you specifically need, based on what it is that you specifically need, my coaching style is tailored to your needs. And why are coaches needed? is that they are the portal to the reality that you want, right? Because we constantly keep educating ourselves, we invest in ourselves, we spend time and energy on our personal development. And I spend a lot of time understanding human dynamics. I've spent a lot of time understanding men. I've spent a lot of time understanding how the feminine and masculine within each of us helps us get exactly what we want. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's money, whether it's the business, whether it's work, anything at all in life, you always need to balance your inner masculine and your feminine. So I understand relationships on a different level than most people. See, you might think that that's counseling, but counseling is past present oriented. Counseling talks more about the past traumas, right? Whereas coaches always talk about present future. So sure, there are areas that are in your life that you might need to work on if they are affected in the present moment. But where do you see yourself going within that relationship? Where do you see yourself being in the next year, 5 years, 10 years? And how is it that you want to transform that? How is it that you want to navigate through your relationship trauma or relationship triggers? So, to talk about present future, you must talk about the past. Yes, but counseling talks only about the past. It's a form of therapy, and I'm not a licensed therapist. If you feel like you need therapy, then you might need to seek out a licensed therapist. But it's not counseling. There is a difference between counseling or therapy and having a life coach. Life coaches, we're kind of like portals. We're kind of like the container, holding you on a container to get your desired reality. So whereas counseling focuses more on the past of what's happened there and what are your traumas there, what are your triggers there, coaching always focuses on what it is that you want to achieve and how can you get there, how can you bridge the gap between like where you want to be and what you want to where you are now. If you don't need therapy, if you honestly feel like you don't need counseling, that's fine. However, everybody should be on a personal development journey. Everybody should want to strive for something more. And I just have this thought in my head, like it's like, how can you strive for success if you don't have the right person to teach you how you can get there? And the way to get there is think about a sport. Think about going to the gym, right? How are you going to get the muscles if you don't know what you are doing at the gym? If you just go all over the place, do a few reps here, a few reps there, do a little bit of this, and just, not really know what you're doing. You need guidance, right? You need coaching. In some form, it's very different type, but it's the same principle. You need someone to guide you in order to get the muscles, and you need to show up consistently. You need to show up consistently in order to do that. And self-care is absolutely one way that, like, one of the best ways that you can look after yourself, and finding a routine that works for you. And what does that look like? What are the benefits of doing that? So if you want consistent results, or if you want results, you need to do it consistently, right? It's what you need, it's what you want. It's always, always, always your decision. It's always your choice. And nobody is going to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. But if you want to strive for better, if you want to get the results, or if you even want to focus on doing something with your life, you're gonna need guidance. Simple as. And the sooner you accept that, the better. I'm only messing. But, like, you know, if you feel like you don't need a coach, then you don't need a coach. What I do is something very, very unique and very special, because I'm not like any other relationship coach that I've seen, simply because I think very differently. I see relationships in a very different way, because especially when it comes to a couple, I see the dynamics really quickly, and I let my intuition guide me as to what they might be. Like, a couple might be around me and they might say, like, oh, he's this, he's that, or she's doing this and that. And I'm like, both of y'all are wrong. No, nobody's wrong. There's no right or wrong. But the way people communicate, that's one of the issues that couples have. That's one of the issues that couples need guidance on. How do you avoid confrontation, arguments, drama? How do you communicate effectively? Communication is actually the number one reason why couples break up. Simply because there's so much miscommunication going on. And people often don't communicate their needs in an effective way. And I have this policy of no blame, shame, or guilt. You can't blame him. You can't shame him. You can't guilt him to do something, to behave in a certain way. And he's not responsible for your reaction. She's not responsible for your reaction either, right? So you just have to take responsibility and own up to your emotions, own up to your feelings, and be authentic to them, but also communicate in a way that doesn't harm them either. Do you take into account a couple's personality, introvert, extrovert, ambivert? I'm not sure how to answer that. Can you maybe reframe that question? I take take into account of what I see and what they tell me individually. But I never take sides, number one. I'm not there to take sides. But number two, it's the dynamic. It's how they show themselves as to the other person. So if you want to work with me, I will probably seed out what type of a person they are individually and how they show up in that relationship dynamic. As I said, the journey that I will take you on is really, really dependent on the individual person's needs and what they want out of the relationship with me. Because it's going to be a form of a relationship. So you might come for an issue at a surface level, and I'll look for what's going on underneath it all. Like, what is the actual root cause that is causing this scenario, especially if it's a pattern, because I'm really good at seeing the patterns and seeing the behaviors and linking them and putting them together and then reframing it back to you and be like, okay, this is what's going on. And then it's up to you to decide what you want to do with that. If you find yourself to be in a relationship that's no longer passionate, or it's missing that one thing, or it's something that you don't quite understand why or how it's come to be that kind of a relationship that it is right now, I can help you transform that. And something you'll never, ever, ever hear me say is like, you need to stay or you need to leave that person. What I'll do instead is I'll help you explore your feelings and your emotions, and I'll help you explore for you to express your needs in a safe way so that you can make your own decision. And together we explore what's going on, and together we can like work things out, and I'll ask all of the questions. I'll reframe things for you. That's my job. And then based on what you know, you then make your decision. It's always going to be on your terms. It's never about me. And you might think that you don't have the answers, but you actually do. It's just the voice inside your head is too loud, and sometimes it's influenced by external sources, by other people, friends, family, and so on. But it's the noise needs to be quieted down, and you will always get to your own answers. For example, having someone take a personality test, I find that it helps when it comes to relationship coaching, knowing their strengths and weaknesses, and they can reinforce their weaknesses. I'm not too big on personality tests, to be honest, because I find that they are guideposts, and as you grow, as you work through your stuff, the answers might change. So I don't really do tests as such. What I do want to know more, probably more to understand better. I mean, sure, if they want to know what kind of a personality, like there is that test for 16 personality types. If they're interested in doing that, there's no harm, and they can share that with me if they want to or not. That's not, like, again, it's based on what the client needs. But more than that, in a relationship or in a, like, if it's a couple that comes to me, what I'm more interested in knowing is their love language. How do they speak to each other? What fills up their love tank? And there's five languages. There's physical touch, words of affirmations. There is quality time. There is physical touch, quality time, words of affirmations. Jeez. Receiving gifts. And what's that last one? Like acts of service, like being in service. So based on those, I know what language they are talking about. By coaching a couple in a relationship, are you not identifying that there is a big problem already? That's a relationship that shouldn't have started in the first place. A couple should fight and resolve the issue themselves. I believe that's how the couple grow, eventually tolerate do's and don'ts. Yes. However, there is a way to communicate effectively. And you don't even actually necessarily need to get to a point of argumentation when you communicate effectively. And that goes back to like being expressing your needs in an effective way that doesn't shame, blame, or guilt him or her. And it's not necessarily that, let me see. Couples should resolve their issues on their own. But what if you start transforming? What if you grow as an individual person and the other person is not? And you feel like there's something wrong with them because they're not moving as quickly as you. Or if you find yourself bickering constantly, like smallest things, everyday things, like who takes out the trash, who cleans out the kitchen, those things, they become problematic if they're like on a continuous basis. Or what about in those situations whereby you or your partner comes and opens the conversation for opening up the relationship? I've seen that happen too. And the other person is like, holy fuck, what am I gonna do? I have no tools. I don't know how to, like, I'm reacting because like all of these emotions are being triggered in me and I just don't know how to deal with them. Have you ever taken a what's your personality type? I think I've taken it like 3 or 4 times, and every time I get a different result. I think I was like INTPJ, INFP, I don't even remember. It's been a while since I've done it. For those people who do not communicate as well as others, how do we get our partners to accept these so-called flaws? By coming from a place, and that's a really good question, by coming from a place of understanding where that person is coming from, and then having that conversation, being open to what they are saying, and then understanding what they're like. I always say that communication is key for a couple to be successful. But I don't like the word successful when it comes to relationships. But you know what I mean, right? But then there's an added layer of comprehending to what's being communicated. So you need to have an understanding and comprehension of what the other person is saying, and be willing and be open to what they are talking about. And understanding that there's no right or wrong. You both are right. You both are equally right. You both are equally wrong in certain situations. Maybe not, but like, that's where the personality comes in. And we're only humans. We make mistakes. We say shit that we don't necessarily mean. But you have to understand that hopefully there's no malicious intent behind what's being said. Apparently, I'm always wrong. Okay, do you want to open up more about that? If you feel like you're always wrong, or if the other person is saying that you are wrong, I would start exploring how is that making you feel, and what is being reflected through the other person. Because relationships are also, they're always a mirror to our inner being. Hi Sherry, how are you? Relationships are always mirrors to your inner being. So if you feel like someone is telling you that you are wrong, explore why they're saying that. Explore where it's coming from. What is making them feel that way? Again, that just comes down to communication and understanding why that person is saying those things and where they're coming from. So I'm not talking about relationships, by the way, just everyone thinks I'm wrong. Well, whether it's a friendship, or whether it's from your mom, or whether it's from somebody who's close to you, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a romantic relationship or romantic partnership. But relationships, regardless of what the types are, they're always a reflection to your inner being. I don't communicate well, but what you have said so far has been 100. Aw, thanks. You can work on your communication skills. I haven't always communicated well. I've made so many mistakes, if you will. I've not been able to communicate my boundaries. I've not been able to communicate what's acceptable behavior or what I want out of that relationship. It's taken me a lot of effort, a lot of self-awareness, and a lot of knowledge, acknowledgement for myself to be authentic to my needs in order to be able to communicate that with another person. And I sometimes still struggle with that. See, I used to be a people pleaser, and I still am to a certain extent. And when you have people pleasing background and codependent dependencies, you're gonna want to not communicate your needs in an effective way. So it's just something that you can learn, and it really comes down with practice and learning to express yourself in a safe way that doesn't threaten you. Now that's changing who I am to satisfy others. What do you mean by that? Is that a comment to people pleasing? So one of the things I work with people is talking about their boundaries and communicating them in ways that doesn't bring shame, blame, or guilt to the other person as well as to yourself, because sometimes you might feel guilty saying no, or sometimes you might feel guilty even expressing them. To changing how I communicate. Changing who I am to satisfy others. If it is something that you feel like you need in order to be understood and be heard, then it's not changing yourself to satisfy others. It's more that you respect yourself enough to communicate what you need at any given moment in time. It's more that you are learning to set your boundaries and then communicating them. I think it's less about changing yourself for others and more about shifting your style to better support how you show up in relationships and your boundaries or needs understood. Yes. Thank you. It's definitely a shift within yourself to just be authentic. Because all we ever want is to be appreciated or to be heard and to be seen. But when that idea is distorted, we don't want to do that. And if we feel like, if there is a background of rejection or some kind of trauma around feeling rejected, feeling resentment, feeling anger even towards other people, then you might not be able to communicate your needs. If it's somehow, if you feel like underneath it that it's unsafe for you to express that, then it's not going to be as easy for you to start expressing them, if that makes sense. So when you work together with me, you will learn to know your boundaries and how to communicate them in an effective way as well. Because, hi Erin, how are you? Because when you learn how to communicate effectively, that's just going to transform your relationship as well as your life. What if you don't want to give others the satisfaction? What if you don't want to give? Then I feel like that's more of an ego related issue. You're putting your ego at the forefront rather than listening to what your inner being is asking you to do. And when it comes to relating, you have to put your ego aside. What about your own satisfaction? Yes! Erin says, great quote. When you learn to communicate, you transform your relationship as well as your life. Oh, I love that. Who said that? No ego, just stubbornness. Well, stubbornness is a side effect of ego. Like, if you feel like you need to be right, if you feel like you don't want to give anybody the satisfaction for to even understand you, yeah, that's putting ego at the forefront. It's sometimes you need to have the humility to take a few steps back and revert and then go back to the situation. If you feel like you're in a reactive state of mind, you can't communicate effectively. Oh, don't come up with this Latin stuff now. Anyways, so if you feel called to work with me, I will take you on a 3-month journey, and we will have once a week an hour-long session. And what that looks like I said in the beginning, is based on your own needs. There are different areas that we will definitely talk about or go through, but it's based on what it is that you need at this moment in time. If you feel like you are somehow stuck, or that you need guidance and support to transform your relationships for yourself, not for me, not for your neighbor, not for your mom, not for your partner, but for you, it takes time. Change takes time. And reprogramming your brain takes consistency. So if you want change and transformation, you'll need to repeat the new habit over and over and over again until it becomes a new behavior. So if you want to work with me, if you feel called to work with me, then reach out. Send me a DM and we can have a chat. I'll hit you up. This was informative. Aw, I'm so happy. Yes, please do, Royston. I'm looking forward to it. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your night, and I shall chat to you soon.